So we are starting our new subject, which is also quite linked to the question of equity and trust. This is land law and property law, or property law and practice. There are different names to that subject. And here with me today is Oliver Gray, who is our lecturer, commercial property solicitor and business solicitor. So he definitely knows the subject better than me because it's his main specialty. Hello, Oli.
Hello, Olga. Hello, everybody.
So we are going to start with the land law. During your studies, did you have the same name for the subject, like land law is a substantive law, or did you call it differently?
We did at an academic level. So when we were studying it more in theory on the LLB, we always referred to it as land law. It wasn't until we got to LPC that we started to talk about property law in practice. Exactly the same. We called it land law.
So it's like a substantive element of property in general terms, substantive, more theoretical subject.
Property, I think, ties in practice. The subjects we studied on the LLB, it's in the areas of land law and also equity and trusts. They fit together to make up what we have as property law in practice.
Absolutely. So today we will start as well from the theoretical element of that quite complex subject, which is quite different from in England and Wales from many other jurisdictions, especially civil law jurisdictions, maybe common law jurisdictions like Hong Kong. I know you have a lot of things in common, but still not everything. But for civil law jurisdictions, usually people struggle with this subject. However, I think if you get it, it will go smoothly. And again, as Oliver mentioned, it's quite linked to the area of trust when the trust of land is involved. So today we will cover the basics, nature of land, what is registered, unregistered title or land, two kinds of co-ownership, mortgages. On the next seminar, on the next lecture, we will cover easements, covenants, and leasehold. And then we will have 3 lectures on property practice, which will be more practical element, how the property transactions are handled, all the related issues. On the last lecture, which will be lecture number 5, we will cover multiple choice questions. So in the end, when we already covered all the main topics. So let's start. Just a second. I'll make it a little bit more convenient for us. And the first question, I think, to start with is to distinguish what means real property and what means personal property. Oliver, if you could help me a little bit with that.
So real property and personal property, what we're talking about, certainly if you look at this in a practical sense, are things like fixtures and fittings, as well as the actual land itself. So real property is the land, the property itself, so the land, anything built on the land, and then also anything that is permanently attached to it, which we would classify as being a fixture. So an example of a fixture might be something that you could not really remove without a lot of effort. So the pipes within a property would be fixtures of the property. They're part of the fabric of the building itself. They've been put there in such a way that they are annexed to the property. Personal property. Sorry, Karen.
You mean the degree of annexation, to which extent it's annexed?
Yeah.
Can we have potentially some disputes in practice where people try to determine what is chattels and what is fixtures?
Absolutely. This is why in practice we're quite careful to define exactly what is being left at the property within the protocol forms. So when we're doing our inquiries at an early stage of the transaction, we ask effectively what is being left at the property, what fixtures and what fittings will be left, just so that there is no real confusion. But it's not unusual for disputes to arise.
And why is it important to determine what is fixture and what is fitting?
It comes a little bit down to things like tax as well. It is another important reason. You're already paying stamp duty land tax on the purchase price, but you can apportion part of the price that you're paying to fittings rather than fixtures, which are not subject to SDLT, as long as it's realistic. So it is important for tax reasons, but it's also important really to define the nature of what you're purchasing. Things that are annexed to the property are part of the fabric of the property itself, and that is what you are buying.
So if I, for example, expect that something is a part of the property, but it's not properly annexed to such extent that it is required to be part of the property, I can actually buy property without this item, right?
Potentially, yes.